So what do you see now?
The screen, sir, the white picture, one note. Now it's gone.
Okay.
It's now I see one.
Okay. Okay.
So one more question, sir.
Yeah,
So
we will discuss after the class.
okay, sir.
Hmm?
From quantum entanglement.
Yes.
Should I ask now, sir?
We can discuss at the end. Huh?
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we were discussing the hidden variables theories, and I don't I don't know if we talked about.
Hidden variable theories.
Yeah, but we just try to.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, you are not audible at times.
Okay. Is it good now? Is it better?
Yes, sir. Okay now.
I somehow have to tie all these things so that. Okay, so I think we were talking about some correlations, defined certain correlations in the last class. But anyway, it is a long gap, so let us try to do some of the things necessary here. So I intend to talk about Bell's inequalities. So this is the work of John Bell in 1964. Um, I will try to share that paper in the classroom. You can download it and then try to read. This is also a very nice paper, like EPR paper. I think you should definitely take a look at this paper. Now, of course, the starting point was EPR. So first, let me say EPR argument, just to recall. But I will not use his paper now, but I will use a spin system, which was later EPR argument as per uh, Bohm and Aharonov. So you consider uh, a two-spin system. So the system is a two-spin system. Okay. So first spin is, this is exactly like a two-qubit system because spin is the physical realization of a qubit. So this is a two-qubit system, and uh, the s- the the state of the system, state corresponds to singlet state. Okay, that means the total spin is equal to 0. Okay, that means the state of the system, if I call this as a v, that is equal to 1 by square root of uh, up down minus down up. Okay, now I can choose one of the axis as the I can choose the basis as z basis. Then this will be simply up z down z minus down z up z. Okay, so in the basis, so the basis that we are trying to look at is up z down z for each of the spin. For the other spin also it will be that. Now I am not writing this A, B, A, B, A, B everywhere. The first one is A, second one is B. Let us try to understand that. That is how it is. Now these two particles are produced in this state, and so this is the source which produces these two particles, and then one particle is traveling in this direction, the other particle is traveling in this direction, and here let us say we have spin spin A, and here you have spin B. Okay, and you know that this distance can be any large. Okay, so this distance is usually very large. Now what happens is, so you ask a question, what is the state of A? We ask that question. The answer is we don't know, because we know only the combined state. And the state is such that knowing the combined state does not mean that we know the state of A clearly. Okay, so not known clearly. So there is some ignorance of this state. Same story is true with respect to this. Of course, how to determine the state A? Only by making a measurement, and we had quite a good amount of discussion in the past as to how this state has to be determined. Now the question that we will ask is, suppose if if Sz is measured, if Sz is measured on A, if Sz is measured on A, then the result, before we look at the result, we can only say that the result will belong to plus or minus h cross by 2. That is what the quantum mechanics tells us, that it can be plus h cross by 2 or minus h cross by 2. But the post measurement state, okay, so the collapse takes place on the full state, on psi AB. That means if the measurement, if the measurement of Sz on A yielded a result let's say plus h cross by 2, this implies the state psi AB change it to up Z, down Z. That is the function because function is up Z. Right, so this is how it changes. Now the point is that
Sir?
hello.
So your voice is cracking. You cracking sound from it.
Yeah, any question?
So there is cracking sound from it.
Sir, your voice could not be heard at all. Like your voice totally cracks up.
In the meantime, this one node has disappeared. So let me see.
So now it's okay.
Now it is there.
Now it's okay. It's okay.
So the states IAB change it to this up Z and down Z, which means that the so if someone measures SZ on spin B, okay, so we can predict with certainty that it will be, I mean, basically it is that the result will be minus h cross by 2. Because in this wave function, if this is up, this has to be down. Now this is, of course, because of conservation of angular momentum. The total angular momentum for the particle initially is 0, and hence we expect it to be 0 throughout, and therefore you can see that if that is plus h cross by 2, this has to be minus h cross by 2. If that was up, and this has to be down. Now this whole thing, so there is no guarantee that the measurement of SZ on A yielded h cross by 2. It can yield minus h cross by 2 also. But if it is minus h cross by 2, then we can predict that the result will be plus h cross by 2 on the other thing. Now this is what we want to call as a correlation. So there is a correlation among the results of the measurements. Okay, so uh, so results of measurements on spin A and spin B are correlated. If there is a correlation, then you can tell what is the result of B if you know the result of A. Now these correlations are so the issue is something like this. The correlation is, even classically one can say there is a correlation. Okay, but this correlation is, for example, I think we talked about I don't remember what example we talked earlier. So I think we talked about an example where we
It's a
have
glove
a
problem. Gloves.
box problem.
Gloves, gloves, right glove, left glove.
Yeah. So something like that. No, that example I don't know where I have done. Okay.
There was like when in a box, two gloves were there.
Hmm.
Like one person A takes one glove, and person B takes the other glove.
Hmm.
Then if person A measures that he finds
Yeah,
that he has left glove, then person B has right glove.
correct. So you open it and see that so that what is the difference between this and this? That is a little important too, because that is also a correlation. So let's say that we have this problem of gloves. So each one is taking a box, and then there is another box, and one does not know which one contains right glove or left glove. Okay, so but when this fellow opens it, and if you find this as a right glove, then he knows that this one is a left glove, but he does not know whether it is a right glove or left glove. But the only thing is, from the time this box started its courier service, and throughout this path, okay, throughout this path, probably we do not know what is the glove inside, but the glove inside was always right, correct? So right glove was inside the box always. Same thing is true here. So left was inside the box always. Only thing is we don't know. Only when we, so by opening the box, opening the box, we come to know, that's all. We come to know. That is, we get the knowledge of it. Okay. Now, this situation is different from this. In what way it is different? Quantum mechanics tells you that we cannot say that always. Suppose if this guy has measured. Suppose if this guy has measured this one. Okay, so let's say that this. So usually we give this name for these two characters called Alice, and here you have a Bob. Okay, so Alice makes the measurement and gets the result, let's say plus h cross by 2. Okay, then we know that Bob has to get minus h cross by 2 if he makes a measurement. But does it mean that the particle till Alice makes a measurement was in up spin? The answer is no, because up to you do the measurement, just prior to doing the measurement, what is the state? State is a linear superposition of up down and down up, right? So we don't so it is not always in up and down state. Whereas if I want to write a state like this, so this is right comma left, always this is in this state. Now this is a product state. You will only make a measurement to find out what it is, whereas here you have an entangled state. Okay, so we have 1 by root 2 up z down z minus down z up z. This is an entangled state. That means just before you do measurement also, you don't know what is the state of this. Okay, so this choice, this correlation is something that happened just when you made a measure or this result. Okay, so now the point is, this is what was a baffling thing for Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen. That means if you are able to have this kind of a thing, means there should not be any difference between this gloves problem and this problem. That means there should be some the spin of the particle should have some value, and the measurement is only making you know that. Now we are not able to at the level of quantum mechanics, we are not able to make this statement because quantum mechanics is not the final theory. Okay, so that means the conclusion is that EPR conclusion is that the spin of A and B have predetermined values, which is what one calls a reality, predetermined values which depend on as yet unknown variables, okay, which we can call as hidden variables. As yet unknown variables, okay. Now,
Sir,
yeah,
so what happened to the idea of that observation creates reality?
observation,
Creates reality.
that is what quantum mechanics tells
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah. So
But
that is what is contested here. Okay, observation only tells us what the reality is. Observation does not create reality. Okay, but what this theory tells you is that we are not able to know. Okay, so if and when we know hidden variables, if and when we know hidden variables, then we can we can we can know the values of,
sir, I'm talking about Copenhagen interpretation.
yeah, yeah. So measurement outcomes. So this is kind of a deterministic. Now we are not having a deterministic scenario because we don't know hidden variables. But if you know hidden variables, then I can tell you, if this is the hidden variable, this is going to be the answer. If this is the hidden variable, this is going to be the answer. Like that, I can tell. That is what is the conclusion. So quantum mechanics is not the final theory. There can be some other theory which has these hidden variables, and even though we don't know though what those hidden variables are, but we will be able to uh, make a mapping between the hidden variables and the uh, and the measurement outcome.
So the Copenhagen interpretation is not correct.
It's not complete. It's not that it is correct. EPR's argument is that it is not complete because
The observation creates reality. So that thing. You
yes,
make a measurement, and that measurement forces the system to collapse.
correct. So what the argument, as we discussed earlier, is that if you say there is no reality without any observation,
Yes,
now I make an observation of this spin, okay, then I create a reality here.
yes, sir.
So how do we understand this? Because I am not making any observation there, right? So observation creates reality. If you say that is the only way of creating reality, then how am I creating this reality? This reality is true. You can actually measure and then say that whatever I am saying is true, right?
This measurement is observation. Yes,
Correct.
so
Correct. But even see, if I'm telling you 100 times, so let us say I am telling you 100 times what this result is, and every time you are getting the same result, that means I know this result.
yes,
So I know I am able to create a reality at the Bob's place by making a measurement at Ali's place. That means I'm not creating a reality at Bob's place.
yes. And what about the information transfer? Immediate information transfer.
Yeah. So the next question that talks about is that there is something called local influence. Suppose if you are making an observation at the that is Alice is making a measurement here. Now this information that the Alice has made a measurement, can it go to Bob instantaneously? Okay, so that does not happen according to special theory of relativity. So there is no instantaneous information transfer that is possible. Then how this correlation is uh, building up, or how this correlation in the measurement result can be understood. Okay, so Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen's argument is that this is possible only if they are predetermined values. If they have predetermined values, okay, we don't know them, but they have predetermined values. And if we want to know them, then we may have to do some hard work. There are some hidden variables, etc. But this is the only option. That means they must have predetermined values. We haven't got a complete theory to find that, but quantum mechanics is definitely not the complete theory. So that is the idea.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the game. Almost this is 1935, and for next 30 years, I think people have been trying to understand whether this hidden variable theory is going to be the answer for this. But in 1964, John Bell had a very intelligent and very bright idea, which actually answers the question or gives you a way of testing whether quantum mechanics is a final theory or not, or quantum mechanics or hidden variable theory can replace quantum mechanics or not. Okay, so that is very important. Now, last time we talked about constructing a hidden variable theory for one of the spin-half system. Okay, so this is of course a part of work by Bell, but let me not uh, redo that, but instead let me talk about the Bell's inequalities part. Now the point is something like this. So let us first talk about some general features of the hidden variable theory. So hidden variable theory. Okay. Now what hidden variable theory tells you is that suppose you have a system and the state of the system is given. State is given by some ket psi. And then let's say we have an observable. Let's call that observable as A. And this observable has eigenvalues. Eigenvalues of A are, let's say, A1, A2, etc. There can be infinitely many eigenvalues. Now, quantum mechanics tells you the following. Okay, these are eigenvalues of A, and of course, you can also talk about eigenstates of A. Eigenstates of A. So let me call them as phi 1, phi 2, etc., corresponding to these eigenvalues. Okay, so that means A acting on some phi j will be equal to Aj phi j. So this is the statement of these eigenvalues, and j is equal to 1, 2, etc. It can be infinity. Now, what quantum mechanics tells you is that so measure A, the result belongs to this set of eigenvalues Aj, and of course can not be predicted. cannot be predicted. This only belongs to this. Okay? And if we write this psi in terms of sum over n Cn phi n in terms of the eigenstates of A, then what quantum mechanics gives you is that the probability of finding some an will be equal to modulus Cn square. Okay, so this is what quantum mechanics tells you. And since the results of the measurement of A are going to be randomly one of these eigenvalues, then what is A in psi? Okay, so an estimate of the observable A in state psi is given by the expectation value of A, where the expectation value of A is the average value of A, which is given by sum over n probability of finding the value as an into an. Or equivalently, this can be obtained by taking psi A psi. Okay, this is a part of the postulates of quantum mechanics. So this is what quantum mechanics tells us. Now, what hidden variable theory tells us, or what do you formulate in hidden variable theory, is the following. So let lambda be a hidden variable. In principle, this lambda can be actually a hidden variable set, but let me simply say that it is a hidden variable, one hidden variable. The theory will be easy to generalize if you have many hidden variables. So let us just take lambda be a hidden variable. So the point is that lambda is not known to us, but if lambda is known, okay, so lambda is not known. But if lambda is known, okay, lambda is known, then the result of the measurement of A can be predicted. Please see that difference. Here we said result cannot be predicted in quantum mechanics. Here we don't know lambda, but if lambda is known, then the result of the measurement of A can be predicted. Okay, so this is, so once you know lambda, so the randomness, so why there is a randomness in the results, if you ask that question, we don't have any answer in quantum mechanics. There is no answer for that question why. Quantum mechanics says the results will be random. Results will be one of the eigenvalues randomly. No further question of why is asked. Now, how random it is? Okay, quantum mechanics gives you, I can tell you what is the probability of finding each value. That's all. And then for that state, you calculate the average value of that various results that you are getting. So this is what quantum mechanics tells you. Now in this theory, we go a step further and say that, okay, why this is random? This is random because this measurement result or the eigenvalues will depend on some variables which we don't know. If we know that variables, then we will have no randomness at all. We can tell you what the value is. This is somewhat like if you say that when you toss a coin, you don't know whether head comes as an outcome or tail comes as an outcome. But you can say that we don't know, we are unable to predict the toss of a coin because we are not considering many degrees of freedom or many interactions this coin has with the air molecules and then friction, and there are some rotational drag and things like that. So many variables that we are ignoring. Suppose if we put in all those variables and write a very grand Hamiltonian and then try to solve the problem, then we will be able to predict the toss of a coin. Okay, so like that, in this case, we can say that there are so many variables which are not known, and these variables, if you know, then the result can be predicted. Okay, so that means, so this implies every aj can be written as aj of lambda. Every eigenvalue can be written as a function of lambda. Okay, only then if I know lambda, I will know what this value is. Okay, so this aj of lambda, okay, so aj of lambda is a known function of lambda. Aj of lambda is, in fact, I should say aj of lambda are known functions of lambda. Okay, now there are a few things that you have to. So now this lambda is my statistical variable. I do not know, but then this lambda um, varies according to a probability distribution. According to a probability distribution, let us call that as rho of lambda. Okay, and has some domain of variation, domain of its variation. Okay, so let us call that as some lambda lower limit to lambda upper limit. So that means we can say that integral from lambda lower limit to lambda upper limit, if you write down rho of lambda into d lambda, this has to be equal to 1 because this is a probability distribution. Okay, since this is a probability distribution, the total probability in the entire domain is equal to 1. Okay, so this is one aspect. Now, other aspect is that you have this a the eigenvalues. Okay, so the result. Okay, now Mm, okay, so maybe I think I should probably should not write it like this. I'm sorry. Okay. This implies the result of A result of A's measurement in this case, let me call it as A's measurement is A, which is a function of lambda. Or if you want to call it, maybe I will call it as small a as a function of lambda. Okay. So now what happens? So please understand something like this. So let us say that this is your lambda axis. So let's say this is lambda low value and lambda high upper limit. Now there will be some particular uh, region. Okay, so now you have defined your a of lambda. So this is some known function. This is kind of a result function. Result function. Now suppose if let's say that I have this particular range of hidden variables, then in this particular case your a of lambda can become a1. Now in this region, for example, maybe it will be a2. In this region, maybe it is a3. I'm just saying, okay, for certain values of lambda, it will take the same eigenvalues that of the operator a. But this is the result function has to be tailor made in such a way that it agrees with eigenvalues of a for different values of lambda. Okay, so that is what uh, we use this result function. Now the only requirement that this hidden variable theory represents quantum mechanics is the following. Now if you consider an ensemble average of this function a, that is you consider lambda l to lambda u, a of lambda, rho of lambda, d lambda. What will this be equal to? This will be average value of this for different values of lambda distributed according to this. Now this one has to be equal to the expectation value of a from quantum mechanics. Okay, so this is the requirement. So we must have a theory. So the theory is quite general here. So suppose if you have more than one hidden variables. So let's say you have many hidden variables. You have many hidden variables. Let's say lambda 1, lambda 2, etc. Some lambda n. There are n hidden variables. Then you are going to simply call your distribution function as rho of lambda 1, lambda 2. It is a joint distribution function of all these variables. And you can have your result function. A will depend upon lambda 1, lambda 2, etc. up to lambda n. Okay, so this is distribution and this is the result function. Result function. And of course, you can say that your each of this lambda 1 may have some ranges of domains of variation. So let me not worry about this. But here you can have d lambda 1, d lambda 2, d etc. d lambda n into a of lambda 1 lambda n into rho of lambda 1 lambda n. So this is the ensemble average that you have to calculate, and this should be equal to the expectation value of A. Okay, so this is how we have to formulate a hidden variable theory, and hidden variable theory formulation is very general at this moment. Now, Bell's result is something like the following. So suppose you consider the same system that Aharonov and Bohm has considered, which is of course the EPR system. Now let's come to uh, Bell's argument. In 1964. So this is our second segment of this class. So the Bell's argument is something like this. So let us say that so we have two spin system. Let's say we have two spin system. So same scenario and singlet state. Okay, singlet state. So let me write down the singlet state with respect to a particular 1/√2, some arbitrary axis A. Okay, some arbitrary axis A. Instead of choosing Z, I would have chosen A. That means this particular, so the basis that I have chosen here is, basis is this up A, down A basis, and this is an eigen basis of an operator called sigma dot A cap. Okay, so I will use this sigma, and what is the connection between S and sigma? That is equal to H cross by 2 sigma. So that when you make a measurement, the results are going to be plus minus 1. Okay, so the eigenvalues of this one are plus 1 or minus 1. So the results are going to be plus 1 or minus 1. Okay, so that means, so now let us say we have Alice on this side and Bob on this side. And if Alice measures sigma dot A cap, okay, and if Bob measures also sigma dot A cap, if Alice measures sigma dot A cap and if Bob measures sigma dot A cap, then what happens is that, because look at the state, so whenever this guy gets up A, this side it will be down A. Okay, so now the result of the measurement, so in this case result is plus 1 and the result here is minus 1. Or if this guy gets down A, then this guy will get up A. So the result in this case is minus 1 and the result in this case is plus 1. Now this will happen always. So if you ask a question, what is, so maybe I can just say that this is first spin and this is second spin, sigma 1 and sigma 2. Suppose if I write like that, then if you ask a question, what is sigma 1 dot A, the result of this one, okay, so maybe we should simply call this as So let us call this result as simply A of A. Okay, so this is I don't know what is the best way to. Okay, maybe I should call this as. So we will describe this result as uh, maybe we can call this as A1. Okay, so A1 of A cap. So that is equal to plus 1. In this case, A1 of A cap. So that is equal to minus 1. So here I will call it as A2 of A cap is equal to this. And in this case, A2 of A cap is equal to this. Now, if I ask what is, now I do this several times and I get these results, but then I ask what is A1 of A cap into A2 of A cap. Okay, if I ask this, and then I take an expectation value of this, I mean the average value of this is always equal to minus 1. What does that mean? That means that uh, you can say that your A1 of A cap is equal to minus A2 of A cap. The results are like this. That is why you have a perfect anti-correlation. Okay, so this you understand, right? But the the uh, but the issue is that in general, these two are far separated, and Alice might choose to make a measurement with an operator as sigma 1 dot a cap, and Bob in fact can choose an operator different from this sigma 2. That axis of his, let's say he has a Stern-Gerlach experiment, and he might orient this in a different direction. That is possible, right? Because they are not in touch with each other. They are very far away from each other. So what happens to this correlation if Alice and Bob chooses to measure two different orientations? This is the most general case, right? So now we can say that in the next scenario, this part we understand. The next scenario, let's say that we have Alice and Bob, and Alice chooses to measure sigma 1 dot a cap, and Bob chooses to measure sigma 2 dot b cap, and A and B are different. So in that case, what will happen to the correlation? So we are going to ask, so this, the result, we can call this as A1 of A cap will be plus minus 1. Okay, and here also the result, which I will call it as A2 of B cap, which is also plus or minus 1, because whatever you measure, you will get either plus 1 or minus 1. Okay, now, but the correlation will not be exactly like what we saw earlier. That is, A1 of A is not equal to minus A2 of B. Okay, so this is something which uh, we can understand. So now uh, you want to actually calculate what is the correlation. Okay, so we would like to calculate. We want to find this correlation A1 of A into A2 of B, and average of this. Okay, so this is the, we want to find the correlation function.
Sir, but by the formulation, I can tell one thing. It should be lying in between minus and plus one, isn't it, sir? Something like that.
Which one?
This correlation function result should
Yeah,
lie between
that's
minus one and plus one.
yeah, that is correct. But we would like to know exactly what this correlation function is. It is lying between minus and plus one, we can say. But if it is zero, for example, it is completely uncorrelated. So how much is the correlation is something that we should determine. Now for
So,
that,
so,
yeah,
so if we take identically prepared
mm,
systems and then make measurements,
mm.
then the outcomes will be different. No, it might be different. So if we take identically prepared system, then everything is same for the systems. So if there is a hidden variable, that should also be same. But the outcomes are different. Does that not mean that the it's something intrinsic? The probabilistic nature is intrinsic in the system.
Um, I think I didn't understand your question. Can you repeat?
Yes, sir. Like if we take identically prepared system, like an ensemble,
Uh,
and we carry out measurements.
Measurements of both sigma 1
Uh,
dot A and sigma 2 dot B.
no, like not this question.
Previous.
Like any kind of measurement,
Okay.
and the same measurement in all the systems.
Okay.
So the answers will be different. No, like might be different because we get different eigenvalues.
Yes. Agreed. They are different.
But if they're identically prepared systems,
Uh,
then everything will be identical. Like also the hidden variables, if they exist, then it will be also identical in
hmm.
both all the systems. So, but the outcomes will be different. So, does that not mean that there is something inherently probabilistic nature, the probabilistic which is inherent?
No. So it is like this. See, the what is same with respect to hidden variables is the set of hidden variables will be same. The probability distribution is same. Okay. The domain of variation is same. But then what actually are going to be hidden variables in one experiment to other experiment is not same, because that is a fluctuating quantity.
Yes, sir. But like identically prepared means like everything is same.
The state is same. Basically in quantum mechanics, identically prepared means the state is same.
State is same.
Yeah.
Like in statistical mechanics, the macro state is same, we say, but micro states are different. But
Yeah,
in
yeah.
quantum mechanics, everything is if identity prepared means everything is same. Then, like,
No,
but we
in
get
hidden,
different results.
so exactly like microstate can be different, or microstate is a fluctuating quantity in statistical mechanics.
Yes.
Here the hidden variables are fluctuating quantities. So they can be different in different, even though state is same, identically prepared state, but the hidden variables can be different, and that is why we get different answers. So that is the idea of hidden variables.
So, so state means a macro kind of macro state. We mean.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you.
So I want to calculate this. So I'm going to use a basic probability theory. So I want to calculate this. That means uh, when I get A1 and A2 to be equal to 1, then this product is going to be 1, right? That is, there are four possibilities here. So if you can write A1 of A cap and A2 of B cap, there are four possibilities. This can be plus 1, this can be plus 1, this can be plus 1, and this can be minus 1, and this can be minus 1, and this can be plus 1, or both can be minus 1. There are four possibilities to happen. Now, each one of these possibilities will occur with certain probabilities. Okay. So now we will simply calculate that. So in this possibility, what is the product of A1, A2 is plus 1. And when both are minus 1 also, it is plus 1. So I can write this as plus 1 into probability that A1 um, or A2 is equal to +1 given A1 is also equal to +1. Okay, so this is kind of a conditional probability. Plus, I will have again +1, where the probability that A2 is equal to -1 given A1 is also equal to -1. Plus, I will have now -1 probability that A2 is equal to +1 given A1 is equal to -1. Plus, I will have -1 probability that A2 is equal to -1 given A1 is equal to +1. So each one of this term will correspond to this possibility. This term will correspond to this possibility. This term will correspond to this possibility, and this term will correspond to this possibility. And these values that I have here are the product of A1 into A2. Okay. Now we have to actually calculate these probabilities. Now notice that whatever is your B, okay, so we can write, so so now we can express okay, I am not doing hidden variable theory, I am only doing quantum mechanics, please remember. So we can express up along B and down along B in the basis, in the eigen basis of sigma dot A. Okay, we can do that. And this is something which is like what we have seen already. This up B can be written as cos theta by 2 up A plus sin theta by 2, where theta is now the angle between A and B, into down A. And down B is equal to sin theta by 2 up A minus cos theta by 2. Of course, there is an e to the power I phi here to be more general, e to the power I phi into down A. I can write it like this more generally. So, so if I say that there is an A cap like this and there is a B cap like this, and this is the angle between A cap and B cap theta. Now, it is easy to find out. So how will I calculate this? That is P of A2 is equal to 1 plus 1 given A1 is equal to plus 1. Okay, so when will this happen? When will this happen? This happens, already I have got A1 as plus 1. Okay, so if A1 is equal to plus 1, that implies Alice found the state as up A, correct? Then that implies Bob's state is down A according to the state. But then when you measure B, it can be up A or down B. So how will I calculate this one? The state is down A, but I want it to up B. So then I have to take up B and then down A, and then take modulus square. Correct? So this was the state that is collapsed, but now I am making a measurement of B, and what is the probability that I find it up is this. Okay, so this is basically equal to, so you know this up B is here, so you take a bra vector and then put it here, then you will see that that is equal to sine square theta by 2. Okay, now next we will calculate what is the probability that A2 is equal to -1 given A1 is equal to -1. Okay, so if you have understood how I have written this, can you tell me what should be the what should I write here? So if A1 is equal to -1, what is the state of the Alice? It is down A. Then what is the state of the Bob? It is up A. So I want to get down A. Okay, I want to get down A.
So inner product of down B down A mod square.
Inner product of down B.
Down A.
No, up A. Because Bob
Okay,
Bob,
sir. Okay, sir.
Bob has got down up A, no?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, so down B, up A. So this is also equal to sine square theta by 2. We follow? Now let's try to ask what is probability of A2 is equal to +1 given A1 is equal to -1. So what will that be equal to? If A1 is equal to -1, then what will be the state with the Bob? It is up A.
Up.
Up A. So we should get up B, up A mod square. So you go to up B, up A mod square is equal to cos square theta by 2. Okay. So probability that A2 is equal to -1 given A1 is equal to +1. So that will be equal to down B, down A. Mod square. So that is also equal to cos square theta by 2. Okay. So now if you go back to this expression and then substitute that, then you will see that your A1 of A cap into A2 of B cap, this correlation function is equal to we have so you have 2 times sine square theta by 2 minus 2 times cos square theta by 2. Okay, or this can be written as minus 2 times cos square theta by 2 minus sine square theta by 2. Okay, so that is equal to minus
Hello, sir. minus 2 cos theta.
Okay, just a minute, please. It is hanging. Are you still seeing the screen?
No, sir. The one note is gone. It's not visible.
Gone? Oh, okay. So, let me just see if I can. Okay.
It's visible
So,
now.
yeah. Yeah. So here I wanted to just make a small correction that see here I want you to note that see what I have to write here is +1 into probability that A1 is equal to 1 and A2 is equal to 1. Okay. So this probability that A1 is equal to 1 and A2 is equal to 1 can be written as probability that A2 is equal to 1 given A1 is equal to 1 into probability of A1 is equal to 1. Okay, the conditional probability into probability of A1 is equal to 1. So everywhere I have to write that. So here what is the probability that A1 is equal to 1? Here what is the probability that A1 is equal to -1? And here what is the probability that A1 is equal to -1? And here what is the probability that A1 is equal to +1? So I have to multiply that one. And all these quantities are half, 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 because from the wave function, you know that if you want to get up, you have to have +half and down is +half. So you have to write. So this is correct, but then in this case, there is an overall half that is coming because of that probability, and that half will cancel with this 2. So I have minus cos square theta minus sin square theta. This is nothing but minus cos theta. Okay, so this is the quantum mechanical correlation function. Or you can say that the correlation function of A1 of A cap into A2 of B cap is equal to minus A cap dot B cap. So it is written in terms of A and B. Okay, so this is our quantum
Sir,
mechanical. Yes.
sir, I just have,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. This
Uh,
whole thing can be very easy written, sir. If A and B are anti-parallel, we can say from that itself, if theta is 180 degree, it will be plus, and if it is something like that, like we can just use trigonometry to derive this relation, sir. Why go through all this process? Because
no,
I think,
we did like that last time, if you remember. We got this result earlier also, right? So that time I simply used geometry. I don't know if. So here I just made a tabular column like this, and I asked the question: Is the result correlated? Then I said, okay, A is. So here I said AB is equal to this, but now here I said I then talked about one sigma z and sigma x. Then I said the correlation is such that the correlation function will be 0. But then if you take sigma dot A and sigma dot B, we guessed that one. It should be minus A dot B. Correct? So exactly what you are saying is what we did in the last class. But now I am trying to put it in the proper language of quantum mechanics and then derive it more rigorously from the rules of quantum mechanics. Okay, so I am getting the same result. Okay, but this derivation is important to understand because in more complicated cases, you have to do like this. It's not always easy to guess, right? So that is why I am trying to just familiarize with the way that this is done using quantum mechanics. Now what we will do is we will try to look at so this result is there, so let us keep this result. And now third aspect is now let us try to do a hidden variable theory. Okay, so now hidden variable theory, what we are going to do is we are going to talk about the same thing like this. That is, we want to calculate A1 of A cap into A2 of B cap. A1 of A cap and A2 of B cap, which is equal to integral um, some lambda L and some lambda U d lambda into rho of lambda into A1 of A cap. Of course, now this will depend on also lambda. A1 of A cap comma lambda and A2 of B cap comma lambda. Okay, so this has to be done. So this should be in hidden variable theory, you are going to calculate this one like this. Okay. Uh, Now here you note that yeah. So this is this is this. Now note that what will be A2 of A of lambda. A2 of A of lambda is basically equal to minus A1 of A of lambda. How do we know this? This is known from a given state. From from the from the given state. And our state is a singlet state. From the given singlet state, we know that the value A2 of A of lambda is equal to minus A1 of A of lambda. Okay. So now let us try to consider this quantity. That is, consider the correlation function A1 of A cap into A2 of A cap, sorry, B cap minus the correlation of A1 of A cap into A2 of some C cap. Okay. So if I write like this will be equal to integral lambda L to lambda U d lambda into rho of lambda. So I have A1 of A comma lambda into A2 of B comma lambda minus A1 of A comma lambda into A2 of C comma lambda. I have something like this. Now this I can write it as integral lambda L to lambda U d lambda rho of lambda. Now A1 I can pull out because that is common between these two terms into A2 of B of lambda minus A2 of C cap lambda. Okay, and every possible term is basically uh, what is called plus or minus 1. Okay, so what I am going to do is, here I have 1, right? So at this place I am going to insert uh, what is called A2 square of B comma lambda. That is equal to 1 anyway, plus 1, because A2 of B comma lambda is uh, sorry, uh, okay, so let us see what okay, so this is I insert that, so that is equal to lambda L lambda U d lambda rho of lambda into A1 of A cap lambda into A2 of B cap lambda square of this one into A2 of B cap lambda minus A2 of C cap lambda. And I can take one of these A2 inside this bracket and then write this as integral lambda L to lambda U d lambda rho lambda. So I can write this as A1 of A cap lambda into A2 of B cap lambda. So 1 of A2 I am taking inside, then I will have A2 square of B cap lambda minus A2 of B cap lambda into A2 of C cap lambda. But what is this A2 square B cap lambda? This is equal to plus 1, correct? So I will have, so this is equal to integral lambda L to lambda U B lambda into rho of lambda. Okay, so A1 of A cap lambda into A2 of B cap lambda into 1, this is 1, and I have, um, so this A2 of B cap lambda, I can write it as minus A1 of B cap lambda, because A2 and A1 are related like this when the same axis is there. That is because of the state. Okay, so due to singlet state. So this is something which you should remember. So that means this will be plus A1 of B cap lambda into A2 of C cap lambda. Okay. Now notice that so this particular term, okay, yeah. So this particular term, see A1 and A2, whatever is the axis, okay, so this product, okay, is always between -1 and +1. So the lowest value this can have, okay, so if you look at this particular value, this is always, this is between -1 and +1. If both are minus, one is +1 and the other is -1, it is -1. Otherwise, it is some value either +1 or -1. So if it is -1, this will be 0. If it is +1, this will be, if any other combination, this is actually greater than. So in effect, what happens, this whole thing is greater than 0. So 1 plus something. So this is always greater than 0. This is positive.
So greater than or equal to greater than or equal to
Greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so this is positive or 0.
Sir, one more thing is this product of A1 of A comma lambda and A2 of B comma lambda. That also lies between -1 and +1.
Yes, I agree.
So similarly, the similar argument.
So now what I can say is that this particular thing is a positive number. Okay, that it can be 0 or it can be positive. Okay, so this is something which we keep this in mind. Now, as you pointed out, this one is also between -1 and +1. This also is between -1 and +1. Okay, so now what happens is, if you, so I can say that what is the maximum value, this um the maximum value is +1, right? So if I set this as +1, that is the maximum value. So any other value is going to be smaller than this, because this is anyway is going to be positive, so it cannot take away anything from that in that sense. So I can say that this particular value, this equation, now I can say that is, I go to this left hand side. So left hand side is, so we have the value of a1 a cap, a2 b cap minus a1 a cap, a2 c cap. This should be less than or equal to, this should be less than or equal to integral lambda L to lambda u d lambda rho of lambda. I'm going to choose this. So maximum value is plus 1. So I'm going to choose this maximum value. If any other value is there, it is going to be smaller than that. So that is this inequality I am putting here, less than or equal to this one. I will choose this as plus 1 into 1 plus a1 of b cap lambda into a2 of c cap lambda. Now this has two terms. First term is simply d lambda rho lambda from lambda 1 to lambda 2, that is equal to 1. Plus what remains is the correlation function of a1 of b cap into a2 of c cap. Okay, so if I take a modulus value, so the modulus of this is equal to less than or equal to modulus of this. So I take this to be modulus of this. Okay, now this is what is called Bell's inequality. Okay, so this is Bell's inequality. Now when we are deriving this, please understand what are our assumptions. Our assumptions is existence of lambda, existence of rho of lambda. That's all. This is quite general. And now this inequality should be valid for any choice of A, B, C. This should be valid for any choice of A, B, C. Right? So let us try to look at let's try to look at, because these correlations, okay, so these correlations are something that so this has to be satisfied. The inequality, I mean this inequality should be satisfied, should be obeyed by uh, any hidden variable theory for any choice, for any choice of A cap, B cap, C cap. Okay, now let's try to see uh, so now let us check with quantum mechanics. Check with quantum mechanics. Okay, so for that let us choose A cap dot B cap is equal to 0. Let us choose A cap dot B cap is equal to 0. And then, so that means your A cap is, okay, so this is your, let's say this is your A cap and this is your B cap. Now you choose your C cap like this. And let's say this angle is some psi. Okay, then you can say that your C cap is equal to cos psi into B cap plus sine psi into a cap. Correct? Suppose if I am choosing this one like this, then I go back and then calculate left hand side and right hand side from the Bell's inequality. Okay, so that means what? Here I will have um, so this equation is something like this, right? So Bell's inequality let's look at left hand side. Okay, in quantum mechanics what that is, we have already seen this kind of a correlation function can be written as minus a dot if a1 a2 b correlation function is minus a dot b. So this we have already seen. So this is equal to minus a dot b. Okay, that is your a cap, this one. Then you have minus a dot c. Okay, so that is minus into minus plus a dot c. So this is our left hand side. A dot b is 0 anyway. So what is a dot c? A dot c is given by sine psi. Correct? That is left hand side. What about right hand side? Right hand side is modulus of 1 minus b dot c. So that is equal to 1 minus cos psi. Okay, so this is left hand side and this is right hand side. Okay. Now, if you want to understand, so what is our result? Bell's inequality tells you that your left hand side has to be less than or equal to right hand side. So this is the Bell's inequality. Okay. Now, if you look at this as a function of psi, okay. So let us say uh, you have something like 1 minus cos psi. So 1 minus cos psi is something something like this. Okay, this is if psi is equal to pi by 2, then cos psi is 0. So this is something like this up to pi by 2. Let's see. Okay, whereas what is sine psi? Sine psi is something like this. It goes to 1. So this is your LHS and this is your RHS. Now you can see LHS is always greater than RHS, except at these 2 points it is equal. At 0 and 1, it is equal. Okay, except at those 2 points, at all other points, this is actually violating this inequality. Okay, so except at psi is equal to 0 and psi is equal to pi by 2, quantum mechanics violates Bell's inequality. Bell's inequality for any psi. That means we have infinitely many choices of ABC for which quantum mechanics is not obeying the Bell's inequality. Of course, this entire discussion is because all this derivation is with respect to the singlet state. That means even if you say that there is one particular state for which Bell's inequality is not uh, obeyed, that means any theory in which such a state can be realized or exists or can be described cannot be cannot be completely described with a hidden variable theory. So that is what is the conclusion. The conclusion from the Bell's inequality is that so quantum mechanics cannot be replaced by a hidden variable theory. Okay, so uh, so there can be no hidden variable theory for quantum mechanics. So this is the conclusion. So the hopes that hidden variable theory can exist as a fundamental theory whose approximation can be quantum mechanics is something that completely got uh, kind of proven to be an untenable task by this Bell's inequality.
Sir,
Yes.
what if you go to higher dimensions? I think
Huh?
that if you go to higher dimensions,
Yeah.
this is
So you mean instead of a spin half, if you have more than spin half particle, is that what you're saying? Higher dimension?
yes.
Yeah. So there are some difficulties in higher dimension case, but uh, these difficulties are generally true. There are some difficulties which depends on there's something called contextuality and things like that. But before I take up that one, uh, I wanted to also show you that there is a more maybe not today, but in the next class sometime, I want to show you that there is something called Bell CHSH inequalities. Okay, so this is more amenable for experimental verification. CHSH inequalities. Okay, CHSH, these are all different names. So this inequality will actually tell you that you can have uh, so each of this. So let's say you have Alice here and Bob on the other side, and Alice can actually make choose to make a measurement along let's say A1 cap or A2 cap, and Bob can choose to make a measurement along B1 cap and B2 cap. Okay, so symmetric. So A1 cap and A2 cap, and then you can actually think of a correlation function like this. That is uh, A. Uh, okay, I call this as A1 and B1, A1 and A2 there. So maybe I simply call this as A1, A2, and B1, B2. So I can have A1, B1, the correlation function A1, B1, plus the correlation function A1, B2, plus correlation function A2, B1, minus the correlation function A2, B2. So if you have this kind of a correlation function, you call this as some M. And notice that when you take an ensemble average of this M, because each one of them is either going to be +1 or -1. Okay, so this one will belong to either +2 or -2. This belongs to that. It can be +2 or it can be -2. So when you take the average value of this one, this has to be less than or equal to 2. So a correlation function which is defined in this fashion is called Bell CHSH inequality. So Bell CHSH inequality is what experimentally people tried, and then they showed that quantum mechanics actually violates this. For example, if you take a singlet state, which is basically a maximally entangled state, if you take a singlet state, theoretically you can show that this average value of M, okay, is actually equal to 2 times root 2. And experimentally also you can show that this particular value will be close to 2 root 2. So that means it is more than 2, whereas hidden variable theories tell you that it should be less than or equal to 2. Okay, so this will be this is what we call as Bell CHSH inequality. And here you are going to make measurements along A1 or A2. That means your operators are going to be sigma dot A1 or sigma dot A2 on this side, and sigma dot B1 or sigma dot B2 on the other side.
So here, why there is minus sign at the last? Minus expectation.
So basically, this correlation function is defined intelligently in such a way that it is actually something like this. You can say that you are going to define a1 uh, a1 times b1 plus b2 plus a2 times b1 minus b2. Okay, so if you do like that, then what happens? This is always see, b1 can be 1, b2 can be 1. So this is always either uh, so when both are 1 it is 2, and both are minus 1 it is minus 2, and one is plus 1 and one is minus 1, it is like that, right? So these are the values that this b1 plus b2 can take. And a1 can take plus 1, in which case this is what, if it is minus 1 it will be simply reversed. So this entire thing can be like this. Now this particular object, if you see, whenever this b1 plus b2 is um, plus 2, that is, this is plus 1 and this is plus 1, that will give 0. So this will be 0, and when this is plus 1 or minus 1, it will be plus minus 2, otherwise it will be 0. So what happens is, when this is 0, okay, so when this is 0, this will be plus minus 2. When this is plus minus 2, this will be 0. So only one of them will contribute, so that the entire result is always between either plus 2 or minus 2. So um, it is actually constructed in that fashion.
It is constructed to be less than 2.
Less than 2, yes.
I mean, not 2, obviously.
Yeah.
Why, sir? Any particular reason why should be lesser, plus or minus 2?
No, if you also look at this particular way in which Bell has constructed, he also see his Bell's theorem is also something like this, right? So if you look at this, this is like a1, a2. Of course, this is different things. Suppose if I also called this as, instead of a cap, b cap, c cap, if I call this as a1 cap, b1, a1 cap, a2 cap, and a3 cap or something like that. So this is like a1 a2, a1 a3, and a2 a3, right? So it is like you have same. See, the correlation functions are chosen in such a way that you have, so with 4 measurements, okay, the smallest integer that you can get is only 2, right? So he wanted to find out correlation function which will be less than or equal to 2.
So in that case, it has to be, it was 2 measurements. So
Yeah.
he wanted to be minus 1 and plus 1. Here
Yeah.
it's 4 measurements, so is constraining.
Yeah. Correct.
So, someone else ask. I'll ask later, sir.
Yeah.
Also, the correlation lies between plus 1 and minus 1, no, sir? Always.
No. See, that is, you can always normalize it like that, but it is not in general required that every correlation should be like that.
No, I mean, I thought that the if plus 1 correlation function is plus 1, then it's perfectly correlated. And if it's minus 1, then it's anti-correlated perfectly.
Correct.
But here we're getting,
No.
we are getting plus minus 2. So
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that if you look at the correlation with respect to one of these pair, no, a1 b1 or a1 b2 or a2 b1, like that,
yes, sir.
then it is fine. But when you add them up, then it will get added, no?
Yes, it will be added. But like, is n the correlation function or something else?
This is also some complicated correlation function.
Okay. Means in classically we think that correlation function should be plus minus
This is
one.
from the point of view of probability theory. Yes, you are right.
Yes, but here we're getting plus minus two. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So I will stop here, and we can also meet again this Wednesday. I will check with